Hey, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. So this week we are going to be making that petticoat for our dress, for our fall dresses. And I actually have it right here with me. It's a vintage kind of inspired fit and flare. And since I don't have a petticoat to go underneath it, it hits me at the waist, but then I kind of have like that mama pooch that happens after you have babies. And like, even though I feel completely comfortable in my body, I love the way I look and I feel, it's not so flattering in the tummy region. So I'm thinking, let's make a petticoat for it. Flare it out a little bit, be a lot more flattering. It'll make my waist look really, really small. So that's what we're going to be doing this week. Now, earlier I tried filming the upsizing, so that's what it's called, upsizing. Is it grading your pattern? But I tried filming showing that, and that process did not go well for me. I've never done it before. I was trying to figure it out. It's a total of like, I think 7 inches. All right, so here it is. This is the pattern we're going to be using. It's Simplicity 8456, and all that they had was sizes 4 to 12. Well, I am not any of those sizes. I am actually the bigger sizes, but their final measurements for waist to hip ratio, the waist is fine. Like, I fit into that, but my hip ratio is off this chart by a whole 4 inches. So I thought that's all I have to do, right? It's just like add 4 inches to the yoke part, because that goes around the waist and around the hip. But really I only need it in the hip part, like the waist is fine. So what I was understanding is that instead of it being straight in meeting, they were going to end up doing this kind of like a T, so that they meet right here at my waist. But then I'm adding more fabric in the hip, like 4 inches worth of hip. So like I need basically a huge gore in the yoke. Now, if I'm wrong about this, you can sound off down below and let me know if I was wrong about this. Let me tell you, I was. Like, that's how it turned out. I tried it over and over and over. I transferred things to pattern paper. I cut it out. I made mock-ups, like scaling up each side a little bit to fit. Making one gore didn't work. So eventually what I did is just cut out the largest size, the size 12. And after cutting out the size 12, I held it up to me, held it up where it was on my waist, held it up to where it was on my hips, cut out just a random scrap of fabric, pinned it in there, and then cut off the excess like you would if you were draping something on a dress form. Now, I don't have a dress form. This probably would have been extremely easy to do on a dress form, but you know, it's where we're at. I'll eventually go in. So I got it all together, got it all pinned, pulled it out, figured out what the measurements were, cut out the ruffles and everything else. So let's hope that I did this right, because if we didn't, I've wasted a massive amount of fabric. But let me show you what I've got. So to make this a little more adjustable, it tells you that you can do, I think it actually is calling for a zipper closure, but in order to make this a little more adjustable for myself, I am actually not going to put in a zipper. I will finish the edges off and around the top inside of the waistband. I'm not going to completely sew off the edges. I'll leave it open so I can put like a little ribbon drawstring in there, which I think will be really, really pretty. And then later on, we'll see. I'm kind of thinking somewhere in the middle based off of if it meets or not. I might end up putting some kind of like twill tape casing on the inside to run a ribbon through, and then just tie like the top tier like on my waist, and then the top tier. So we'll see how that works out. That's what we're going to be working on this week. Hopefully it turns out as frilly and pretty as I liked, but for the ribbon, I picked out this pretty like peachy colored ribbon. So that should work out really, really well. I really want this to be not like super poofy, like 1950s, like fit and flare, but I want somewhere between like the 40s kind of full circle skirt look and a 1950s fit and flare. So like I want something in between there. So kind of that like foofy, but not just hanging down off of my waist either. So we're gonna put a little bit of frill in there. It calls for only cotton, but I cut some of this netting. It's kind of just like an ivory netting. And then I've cut some of this orange cotton, which is really, really nice. It actually matches the orange in my dress really, really well. So if you see a little bit of it peeking through, it'll match the dress. So I have this orange, and then I also have some more of the netting for the other tier, but then I have this just plain glazed cotton brown. Now this brown is actually recycled from a bed skirt that I found at the local thrift store. And then this cotton was bought at my local fabric store. And I think it was like $7.99 a yard, and I bought 1 yard of it. So, and then the netting I had in my stash. So overall, this petticoat, I've had the pattern over a year. Like I think I picked it up at Joann's when they had patterns on sale for $1.99. So if you wanted to include that price plus the price of my $7.99 fabric, we are going to be making a petticoat for under $10 to go into my skirt, and hopefully it all works out well. So let's get started. It says petticoat A and B. Step number 1, to ease top of yoke front 1 and yoke back 2 between notches. Stitch along seam line 1/4 inch inside seam line using long machine stitch. Let's give it a try. So I got it together. I didn't stay stitch in between here because I don't know why. And I have it sewn up right here. I haven't pressed anything. I actually thought I lost these. I apparently, several weeks ago, decided, well, let's give it a shot, and just decided to sew it together, but then quit. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. But here it is. I found it. So apparently I already did step 1, so I don't have any footage to show you that. But we're going to press this down, this little seam right here. We're going to press out all of the wrinkles because I found it in my cabbage pile while everything else was in the pre-cut pile. So I don't know. I apparently, once again, was a hot mess. So let's press this and get our life together, at least for today. Okay? Is this a good angle? Last time I had it sitting on the ironing, like my camera on the ironing board, and then when I was like ironing, it was like shaking everything. So we'll see if this works better. We've got our yoke pressed, it's seamed, done. Okay, so stitch upper sections together with right seams together, stitch left seam below notch, back stitching to reinforce, gather edges between notches. So right sides together would be where my seam, the ugly side of the seam is towards me. Okay, so put them together, stitch the left side below the notch. And then the right side between the notches. I'm just going to pin this here. Why are we leaving it open a little? Oh, we're leaving it open a little bit because it connects with the yoke up here on the side. So you have to have enough room to like slip it on. But I think on this, I actually did it the opposite way. Because like I like to tie mine on the right. So I stitched mine on the left. Next step. Right sides together, stitch the upper tier sections together. Yes, back and stitch, reinforce. Gather upper edge between notches. That's the thing that I cut off earlier. So let's see here. Here is my pattern piece. Let's find out. Oh, I remember I didn't cut the notches because I thought, well, it doesn't really matter because I'm making them a lot bigger anyways. So we are just going to press, and from the looks of it, we're doing running stitches basically from like this area all the way around to this area, like right in here. So I'm just gonna eyeball it. I'm sure it'll turn out fine later. If not, we'll figure that out too. So it's cotton, but I do have this going on here, which I need to press this open before I run gathering threads through it. So I think I'll do a gathering thread on one side, and then I'll do gathering thread on the other side just so that I can not have to encounter this seam thing trying to pull it all on one thread, because I think that would end up being a nightmare. So I'm going to press this seam open. We'll iron this out, press this seam open, and then run our gathering stitches on this, and then we attach it to the yoke. So our ruffle here is ready for gathering. hopefully we can get this done before my kids get home from school. If not, then we will probably have movie time and I will show you the gathering later. All right, so welcome back. We are on day 2. We got all of our stuff gathered down and I got this brown one attached, but we're going to attach it to the yoke right here. We're going to finish off the seams like right there and on the inside. Now remember, this is a channel where you're learning with me. So as I gathered it down and pinned it, I realized that I did something wrong. I, for one, didn't finish my seams because I didn't even think about it. But 2, I put the seams on the outside instead of the inside. Now, is this an easy fix? Yes, because I haven't stitched it. But am I being lazy about it? Yes. So we're just going to do them here on the outside. We'll just stitch them straight down. It's not a big deal. And we're going to call it done. So whatevs. And then I actually got the other stitches on the inside. And we'll just, you know, stitch those down. So it's kind of a hot mess, but really it's an undergarment. It goes underneath my dress. Nobody's going to see it, so I'm not really that worried about it. If somebody was going to see it and it was on the outside, I would definitely pull all the pins out, rearrange all of it, regather it. Like I would do the whole shebang, but it's going underneath. Nobody's going to see it except for me, so it's not a big deal. I'm not worried about it. And we're going to stitch this down. Now, I haven't finished these edges because later we will fold all of this in as one, like that later. And it'll look really, really good. So we're going to go through and we're just going to run our ruffle here through our machine, which is sitting right here. You can't see it, but it's right here beside me. And I got some matching cotton thread for all my cotton here. And we're going to get this stitched down and it's going to be nice. It's going to be lovely. And then we are going to gather down and attach our orange fabric. We will attach our orange fabric to this. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. I will show attaching the orange to the brown. I know I didn't get footage of me attaching the brown one because I wasn't quite sure what I was doing just yet. Like it was an in the dark thing. So now that I got it, we'll go ahead and finish this off and attach the orange and then hem the orange and everything else. Now I'm not hemming the brown because remember I said this was from a bed skirt that I had bought that we're recycling. And so I cut off the edge that was already hemmed so I don't have to hem the brown part. But we will have to hem the orange later. So move on to our next step. Okay, so we got that ruffle attached. Quite honestly, I'm not too happy with how I did it. It doesn't look real good. So thankfully it's underneath. Like I was having all kinds of tension issues and just like my side seam stitching here, I didn't do it real well. So but like I said, I'm not going to be too hard on myself. It's the first one I'm making. I haven't made one before. I'm still figuring out a lot of things on my machine and stuff like that. So hopefully here on out we can resolve some of those tension issues. But next, what we're going to do is, since we have this seam right here, but then it opens up here to the yoke, we are actually going to flip this inside out. Let's flip this inside out. And we're going to go over to our sewing machine. And what we're going to do is press this seam at the bottom of our top tier. And we're going to just press that open and then fold it under so we can stitch it down. And then we're going to just continue that fold, that press, all the way up here. And so we'll press it and fold it like that, and then we'll fold it in again. And then once we have all of that pressed and stitched down, we will add our waistband to the top. And once we have the waistband, then we add the bottom ruffles. So we're not quite moving on to this just yet like I thought we would. We're actually going to fix this opening. We are going to attach the waistband, and we will do all of that good stuff, and maybe we'll put a ribbon in it and see how it comes out. But I mean, overall, I like how it's turning out. Like, see what I mean? Like, I'm not real happy how it turned out. I have like some puckering and stuff here where like extra material got caught in the machine, or my ruffles just didn't do what I wanted it to. So, but I mean, sewing isn't always perfect. Like, there's always imperfections. There's always going to be things that you don't like or that you want to do better. And that's part of my process here, is I want to show you those bits. So I'm not going to redo this. It's going to live its life as it is, and we're going to be happy with it, but we are also going to move on. Now, the inside top edge has a ton of fraying, and I'm honestly considering maybe bias taping that on the inside. I'm not quite sure yet, but I thought I'll get to that later. So let's go ahead, press all of this opening, attach that waistband, and then we'll figure out what to do next. Okay, so the next step, our instructions say for our waistband on the petticoat is apply fusible interfacing to the wrong side of waistband, following the manufacturer's directions. Got it. Press a 5/8 inch along the unnotched edge of the waistband. Okay, simple enough. So here is my waistband. Here is my fusible interfacing. So let's attach it. All right, we're back. We're pressed. We're attached. What we're gonna do is fold this in half. There's our center point. We're gonna take a pin, put a pin in it right there. So that way we can match it up with the center of our yoke. And then we will go all the way around. So our yoke is right here. And match up our sides here. And pull this back. Our half is right here. Put a pin in it right there. That's our half point. So now, right sides together. So both of our pins together. Match those up. So like right there. And match those. And pin it. I like to put both pins in it so I don't forget. That's my center back. And then we just continue all the way around until it fits. And then we have a little tab right here. We pin all of this down all the way around, and then we'll end up with a little tab here. Now it calls to like fold over those tabs like this later and stitch it down. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to fold them over, and I might do just a little bit before we fold it over like this, but I'm not going to stitch this closed. When we go to fold it later around and make that waistband, I want this to stay open instead of like closed so that I can run my drawstring through it. So let's get this pinned in place. have our yoke attached to our waistband. Now we're just going to stitch on that 5/8 seam line, and then we'll cut it down to 1/4 inch so that we can flip it over later. It called for a zipper, and I'm not doing a zipper. So we're going to do our waistband just a little bit differently. I'm going ahead and folding this and pressing it at that 1/4 to 1/2 inch all the way down. And then my edge here, I'm going to fold in. That way it creates a nice clean end to my waistband here. So when we go to flip all of this over, it's just so they stay in place and press in place. There's our nice clean edge. Just presses up in it like that. Pin that so it stays. Like that. So when we go to fold our waistband in half and stitch it, we now have this channel for my string to run through and this open hole right here for my drawstring to come out. So next, now that it's attached and pressed, we will go through, fold it down, put this in place, and then we will pin it in place and stitch it down. All right, so we have the ruffle attached to the brown ruffle, and you can see it's all pinned in place. I still have to stitch it. What I did is I took the entire ruffle, folded it in half, marked the half placement, put it on the half-inch mark, or the halfway mark of my brown ruffle where it was pinned. Just match up those pins. Did it for quarters so that you get it in 4 different spots for 4 different panels. And then I just gathered each one of those up and put a lot of pins in it. So next thing we're going to do is just run this entire seam through the machine, and then we'll go through, trim it down, and I might put some like brown bias tape on here just to cover up these raw edges. And then we have to hem it right here, and then we can put a ribbon in it for our waistband, and it's done. So let's get to it. Alright, so sorry that I really got into the zone there, but I'm going to show you what we did. I finished up putting on this skirt ruffle up here, and then I just used some bias tape. It's double folded bias tape. I unfolded it part of the way and then just stitched it down. I did both channels for the yoke attached to the ruffle, covered up those raw edges, and then tier 1 did tier 2 and covered up that ruffle. We also sewed down our seam line here so we don't have any raw edges. And then I did the hem, and instead of doing a rolled hem, I just folded up the selvage and then used some iron-on hemming tape. So we went all the way around, and then we'll go over here to where I have my closure here of choice, which was the ribbons. Ignore my horrible stitching. It was really bad. But I originally had this picked out and I ran out of this ribbon, so I just grabbed this from my stash right here. It's okay. I will probably try and find another ribbon that just matches a lot better with everything, but I'm really happy with it and how it turned out. The only thing that I really regret is my not matching my thread here with the cream color. For whatever reason, I didn't even think about it, and now that it's on, it looks atrocious, but it is what it is. We're gonna roll with it. I really like it. I like how it turned out. I think it's really pretty. It gives my dress the effect that I wanted it to, and I will show you that now. All right, so this is the skirt on the petticoat. I'm actually really happy with it. There's the 2 ties on the side, and it's definitely giving me the flare that I wanted. It's still just a tad big here in the waist, but I'm not really worried about it. I can always, that's why I wanted to do the drawstring. I can always tighten it or loosen it for whatever I need, but it looks really good on the side and everything. Like I said, I wish I would have matched the thread up here. It looks really bad with the brown. But like I said, I didn't think about it, and I'm honestly I'm not worried about going back and redoing it. So let's try it on with the dress. If you haven't met me before, my name's Erica. I am a constant mess. Hi. Oh! Nope, not where. Just stay where I put you. Looks like my iron. Boot.